And what are those, you might ask? Well, number one, and probably the worst one we can commit, is we don't focus on what the client cares about, namely their business problem. And I'm using business, in a general term here. It could be a government agency who's got a problem in terms of delivering services or achieving their mission objectives, but you get the point. What is the challenge they face, and what's the payoff from addressing it? Those are the two key things people want to know right up front. Number two, we have not used a persuasive structural pattern. I'm going to show you this in a minute, but the fundamental point that I want you to walk away from this webinar with is that depending on why somebody is using our document, they expect to see certain kinds of content in a predictable order. Information doesn't work if we're trying to persuade. When people are trying to make a decision, they want to see the content they need so they can make that decision. Decision making is the point of view of the customer, and if you flip that coin around and look at the other side, from our point of view, that's persuasion. It's helping a customer make a decision, one, of course, that favors us. And to do that, we have to deliver the right message in the right order. I'll show you what that is in a second. Number three, why should I choose you? What's different about you, and how does that difference add value? Because it's easy to be different. I mean, you can just wear bad clothes. You can, you can paint your face blue. That makes you different, but that doesn't add any value. Differentiators only matter to the extent that they support our ability to deliver compelling value. So we need to include in our proposal a very specific, measurable value proposition. I'll talk about that in a second as well. The fifth deadly sin, it's just hard to use the document. Key points are buried. Too much text, wall-to-wall words, no highlighting, no graphics, no impact. The Dartnell Institute did a study, and they found that most executives do not read the documents they receive. Now, further research has indicated that most of those executives do, in fact, know how to read. So apparently they're making a choice here. It's the same thing we all do. I mean, when I get a document, I don't read the whole thing. I start skimming it. I'm sure you do the same. Therefore, let's make our proposals skimmable. Highlighting, headings, subheadings, bullet points, graphics, call-outs, text boxes, anything that makes the key points pop off the page. Number six, we tend to forget that the customer isn't as knowledgeable about our stuff as we are. We take it for granted that our jargon, our acronyms, the assumptions we work by are common knowledge, but they're not. That's why people are willing to pay us good money, because we have knowledge they don't have. We just have to explain things in simple, direct language so that they're confident that they're going to get the results they seek. We've got to simplify the proposal. Even if you're talking to someone who is in the exact same area, if you're in, let's say you're a CPA and you're an accounting professional and you're talking to somebody who's the chief financial officer, you don't know for sure who else is looking at that proposal. What if it's going to the chief operations officer or the chief executive officer and their financial background is not as strong? We've got to make sure the document communicates clearly to everybody who's part of the decision team. And the last deadly sin, well, that's the old nemesis of having typos and misspelled words and grammar mistakes and punctuation errors and, oh yeah, calling the client by the wrong name. I got a call one time from a client who was in a panic because he had just submitted a proposal to Microsoft. It was a proposal to win a 3-year contract to do marketing communications out to the Microsoft partner community. And when he called the one at Microsoft and said, how does it look? Her answer was, well, you know, it's so long, nobody's read the whole thing yet, so I can't really give you a final opinion. But one little tip I can give you is that we here at Microsoft, we don't call ourselves Oracle. That's a loser. And it was. That was a contract, by the way, that was worth $30 million to his firm. And you know what he did? He was cutting and pasting from another proposal, and because of this weird thing our brain does where rather than seeing what's actually in front of us, we see what we expect to see. Even though the eyes read ORACLE, the brain overruled it and said Microsoft, and it didn't see that that change had not been made. Wow, that's a painful typo. Well, what happens when you commit these 7 sins? I'll tell you what happens. You lose. You shot yourself in the foot or some other appendage, and as a result, you're not going to win. So let's talk about what we can do to make sure that we don't commit these sins and we maximize our chance of being successful. Let's talk about the 4 keys, the 4 things that will give us the best possible chance of winning. And by the way, I can validate that these 4 ideas do work. We did a survey with over 400 companies we worked with who have implemented these 4 ideas, and on average, win rates went up 39%. I got to tell you, it will work, and this was in virtually every sector of business, including government consulting, all the professional services, finance, IT. It covers the gamut. So let's take a look. So what are they? We're talking about, number 1, get a nose job. What? Number 2, patch your case. Number 3, show me the money. And number 4, kiss for life. All right, cute titles, but what do they mean? Let's start with get a nose job. Get a nose job refers to the use of persuasive structure. I like to tell people that they need to get their nose fixed, they need to follow their nose, they need to win by a nose. Sometimes with the right crowd, what I tell them is, look, if you pick persuasion as your purpose, pick your nose. But all that means is use the right structure. And nose is the acronym which tells us what that structure is. We want to present the right content, but we want to present it in the right order so we get the right results. Consciousness is intentional. When people are looking at our content, they are looking at it with some purpose in mind. Sometimes they want to get some facts. They need facts so that they can do their job. Sometimes they want our opinion. You think about a performance appraisal or a competitive analysis. What matters there, yeah, the facts are important. What they really want to know is, what do you think? You're the expert. What's your opinion, right? But when they're trying to make a decision, as I said earlier, what they want us to do is help them make that decision by presenting the right content in the right order. And research that was done by Daniel Kahneman at Princeton University and his colleague Amos Tversky, who is at University of Tel Aviv, found that when people are making decisions, the first question they have is, am I getting what I need? Now, this research, by the way, Kahneman and Tversky, who are psychologists, well, Tversky's passed away, but Kahneman is professor emeritus at Princeton, a psychologist who won the Nobel Prize in economics for the research because of what they discovered about the way people actually think when they're making a buying decision. The first question, am I getting what I need? So doesn't it make sense that the first thing we should be talking about in the proposal, right up front in the executive summary, is our understanding of your needs? These are the challenges you face. This is the opportunity you want to capitalize on. This is the problem or issue you want to overcome. If we do that, we get their attention. But the second question that Kahneman and Tversky found people ask, the second question, which is the one that leads to the motivation to actually take action, that's the question, and is it worth doing? So the second step in the nose structure, we've identified your need, your problem, your challenge, and now let me point out to you, there's a big payoff here. If you address it, you're going to get a significant return on investment. It's really going to pay off for you. By doing those two things, focusing on what they need and then what they gain, we not only get their attention, we inspire them to be motivated to take action. It reminds me of the words of Dale Carnegie. 75 years ago, when he said, if you wish to persuade someone, you must first instill an eager want. The want comes from the recognition of a need, and the eagerness comes from recognition that it's going to pay off. Well, if we do those two things right up front in the executive summary, now we've whetted their appetite, and they actually want to know, what do you have? So at this point, we need to recommend, and I urge you, do use the words, we recommend. Sound like you mean it. Sometimes people try to slip in there sideways and say, one way to handle this would be to, that doesn't work. It sounds like you don't believe in your own solution. So say it. We recommend the product or service or project that is going to solve that problem and deliver those results. And then the final step, prove to me you can do it. Show me that you've got some qualifications, some experience, some background in handling this kind of an assignment before. What about awards you've won? How about the bios of your team? I don't need all of that, but I'd like to see 2 or 3 pieces of evidence that make me feel confident that in choosing you, I'm making a smart choice. I'm minimizing my risk of failure. Well, that's it. That's the structure of persuasion. It's really easy. Needs, outcomes, solution, or evidence. Or, as I said, it's the nose pattern. So follow your nose. Or, if you wish, pick your nose. Just do it in private.